Good evening and welcome to the Shaftsbury School Annual Meeting. To my left, I want to introduce the principal, Jeff Johnson, David Durfee, Jen Arlotta, Pat Harris, Larry Johnson, the school board members. I'll continue to read the town warning. The legal voters of Shaftsbury Town School District qualified to vote in school meetings are hereby notified to meet at the elementary school in said town on Monday, March 3rd, 2014 at 6:30 p.m. to transact the following business specified below to be done from the floor. Following completion of such business, the meeting will stand adjourned until 7 a.m. Tuesday, March 4th, 2014 at the Village Firehouse to act on the articles set forth below that are to be voted on by Australian ballot. On March 4th, 2014, the polls will open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Business to be transacted from the floor on Monday, March 3rd. Article 1, to hear the reports of the school board and other officers of the district and take action therein. And I'll start with my report. The Shaftsbury School Board opened this year with our new principal, Jeff Johnson. He's off and running. Jeff has been in the education for 15 years and has worked at Molly Stark School and MAUMS. Jeff has found a home here at Shaftsbury. Our tuitioning in policy for the Shaftsbury School has brought us a student from the North Bennington School District with a revenue of $93.07. Our student enrollment continues to increase, but we may see a leveling off in the next few years. We will monitor the enrollment and find more ways to bring in revenues for the school to keep taxes down and ensure the students an excellent education. The school follows a capital maintenance program which was implemented years ago and is acted upon every year with certain projects. This year we have some heating upgrades, water lines, expanded parking area, blacktopping, and numerous other items. Being proactive, the board is mindful in the tax impact in the community by avoiding the need to go out for a bond. Every year the board agrees to what amount of monies to put into capital maintenance and capital improvement line items in the budget. We are pleased to announce that the local education tax rate will have a zero increase. However, when we blend our rate with that of MAU and CDC, the town will experience a tax increase of just over 2 cents. That's a amount, a penny equals 32,000, so you're looking at 64,000. On a more somber note, I want to extend our condolences to Jim Harwood on the recent passing of his wife, Gail. We appreciate the years he gave to our school district before retiring to spend time with her. Best wishes to him in the future and his friends, from his friends of the Shaftsbury School. As always, our students' achievements are a result of and the continued support of dedicated parents and school staff. We commend these individuals and value the time that they give our school. Thank you. Jim?
Jim or Jeff?
Or, sorry. Jeff.
Good evening. This is my first year as Shaftsbury principal, and first I'd like to say thank you for all the support I received from the board, the parents, the students, and the community. It's a wonderful school and a wonderful community. I'm fortunate to be part of both. Secondly, I want to thank Mary Ann Swartz for 33 years of service and congratulate her on her retirement this year. Her kindness, knowledge, and dedication to children will be missed at Shaftsbury, but we wish her all the best in the future. The Shaftsbury Elementary staff continues to be dedicated and hardworking as they collaborate to provide the best possible educational program for the 243 students here. In the 2013-14 New England Common Assessment, the state standardized test, otherwise known as NECAP, 74% of Shaftsbury students were proficient or higher in reading, which was 4% above the state average. 55% of the Shaftsbury students were proficient or higher in writing, which is 2% above the state average. In math, 57% of the students were proficient or higher. That was 5% below the state average. This is the final year we'll be taking NECAP. In the spring of 2015, all schools in Vermont will be taking the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, or SBAC test, which is aligned with the Common Core state standards, which we have incorporated into our curriculum. We've created a school improvement plan to address our challenges in mathematics, as well as enhance the areas of literacy and science. Shaftsbury will be adopting a multi-tiered system of supports model that will allow us to collect, assess, and track student data, and then create a plan that will give students the interventions and enrichments they need for continued success academically. The sixth graders have had the opportunity to utilize our new Kuno tablets this school year. This new technology allows the students to have a one-to-one ratio with the computers, accessing Google Docs, internet research, and curriculum materials in new and exciting ways. Our Shaftsbury after-school program continues to be very successful, offering everything from Lego engineering classes to tennis lessons to comic book art. Currently, 30% of Shaftsbury students take part in this program with plans to expand. Our parent-teacher organization has been instrumental in fundraising to bring a number of both entertaining and educational programs to our school, including Dinosaur Rocks last fall, which was hugely successful. Thank you again for the trust and support you have given me. I enjoy serving the students and families and working with the staff at Shaftsbury. It's been a wonderful start to my career as a principal. Thank you.
Okay, any questions on those reports?
What happened to No Child Left Behind? Is that finally dead?
Could you, if you could come up to the mic and speak, that way there they can hear you on TV.
What happened to No Child Left Behind? Is that finally dead? Because you did say annual, yearly progress, and that was part of No Child Left Behind. Are we still doing that?
This is the last year of No Child Left Behind.
Good.
What goes?
Anybody else? Okay. Oh, Alice?
Just a piece of information. I brought home from Montpelier 2 resolutions, one for Merritt Hewitt, who recently passed away, who is a former a member of the House of Representatives and a senator in our district,
Okay.
and a second one for a young man named Matt McVeigh, who was in the U.S. Naval Academy, and he's going to be going into submarine training. He was a 4.0 grade level in college, and the resolutions are in the back of the room for you to see.
Okay. Thank you, Alice. Okay, next, Article 2, to see if the district will authorize the school board to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of taxes and state aid to meet current expenses before taxes are collected and issue interest-bearing orders thereon. Need a motion? Okay, and a second? Okay, discussion? Hearing none? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Next, Article 3, to see what sum the district will vote to pay its officers for the ensuing year.
Could we ask what's the going
It's
rate?
$800. 800. It's been 800 forever. And we're not asking for an increase.
All right, so moved.
Second? Okay. All right. All in favor? Okay. Article 4, to hold a public informational hearing on articles to be voted on by Australian ballot on March 4th, 2014. And to transact, Article 5, to transact any other business found proper when met. Business to be transacted by Australian ballot on Tuesday, March 4th, 2014. To elect one school director for a 3-year term. 7, to elect one school board director for a 2-year term. And Article 8, shall the voters of the Shaftsbury Town School District raise $102,000 by taxes to be deposited into the Building Major Repairs/Renovations Reserve Fund during the 2014-15 school year. Article 9, shall the voters of the Shaftsbury Town School District appropriate $3,348,755 for the support of its school for the year beginning July 1, 2014. Is there any other discussion?
Sure.
Karen?
I I have just a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
One is way off the subject, but curious about the 102,000, how you came up with that specific number?
Well, we've been putting 124,000 in there, and we figured that we had, I don't have the sheet with me, how much money we have in there, but I believe some of that money we're going to do the water lines and blacktopping and stuff like that, but we would only need 102,000, and we do have a sheet to where that goes down. Hang on a second, I think I got it with me.
Page 19.
Page 19, okay, I had another sheet with me. Thank you. Yeah, on page 19, it shows where we've been putting 124, and for fiscal year 15, it'll be 102,000. And as it goes for 16, and then in fiscal year 17, it drops down to 88, and 26 and 18, and 26 in fiscal year 19. And I think it drops down a little lower than that, even though I think we ran it out till like 2025. So that will decrease every year from now on.
And I'm just curious, Fran, in looking at this table,
Yeah.
are these, it's not clear to me when your plan is to actually do the replacement of these things. Are you planning to wait until you have all the money and then?
No, we have money there now, but we're waiting. I think we've got two more years on one roof. We do have it checked periodically every year. I don't know if it's Vermont Roofing or Doxy, but one of them come and checks, and Jay Coonrad has been keeping up on that for us, so.
Okay, so do you know how much you have in that fund at this point?
Boy, is anybody
I'm
in?
going to say 96.
I'm going to say 96 or 100,000, something like that.
Okay, the other question that I had, and this is a question that's come before the select board several times, and Bill is here, so I don't know if Bill could also speak to it. And it has to do with the payment of municipal and school taxes and whether there would be a convenient way to split up the payments. I mean, I know it would probably be a nightmare for Bill, but it has come before us as a, it might be easier for residents to pay sort of in, quarterly payments,
Okay.
or even twice a year. And I wondered whether that was anything that has ever come before the school board and whether that would work for the school board. I don't see any SVSU folks here.
Yeah, that never has come before this board, so I don't know if it would work or not. I wish Rick was here. He could probably answer that question, but I don't think he's going to make it.
Okay, well, just as a heads up, that may be something that the town would be, looking to have some conversations
Yeah,
with the school.
yeah, absolutely.
So,
Okay. Anybody else? Senda.
It says useful life in this chart on page 19, so it means there's only 2 more years for this floor in the gym? Is that what that's referring to?
On the floor itself?
Well, it says useful life, it gives a number after the major
Right.
renovations you want to do.
Right. It doesn't mean that we would do that. Let's say we've got it planned for next year. If there was something more important, not that it's not important, but like this year, we're going to definitely do the water line. Now, we want a blacktop too, but if we don't have the monies or if something else happens, we will definitely get the water line done, but we probably will forego the blacktop or expanding the parking area or something like that. That's just an estimate of what we may do or what we might not do.
And the water line is not listed in here.
No, it is in my report, but, and we've put money in the capital maintenance for the water line and those items too, but like I say, if it overrides what we've, figure it's going to do when they go out for bid or something, we would probably not do all of it. It's going to depend.
So just to clarify, it doesn't mean in 2 years this floor is going to self-destruct.
No, no, excuse me, no. Cinda?
I have two totally unrelated questions.
Okay.
So one of the questions is whether this board or any of the boards is looking at any consolidation based on the fact that our superintendency is vacant, or at least temporarily being filled, one or the other. And I'm pretty sure Arlington is going to be vacant at the end of this year. And so I'm just, I think Bob Cameron had a letter to the editor a month or so ago, wondering if anybody was thinking about that. It's a good opportunity.
Right. Yeah. That was talked about years ago when we had the red committees out there. Anytime you mention consolidation in a school district, you know, you better have your armor on or something, 'cause somebody's going to hit you side to head. But I mean, I think the state is basically saying they're going to consolidate one way or the other. I mean, I don't know. Alice could say more about that than I can, but I know people really don't like hearing the word consolidation in any terms.
And I certainly understand that, and
Yeah.
I would have questions about it also. Consolidating the business aspects of running schools doesn't mean that you consolidate all of the local decision-making around what goes on in your individual building.
Right,
I
right.
don't think it has to.
Right.
I'm not even sure how much people get to make choices. You know, when you have a school budget, I'm not sure how much stuff anybody makes any real choice
Yeah.
about.
I know that this board has talked, and we've started talking for the past year, about consolidating, you know, maybe we do our own curriculum here from the SU. Maybe, you know, we don't need all the services that we get from SVSU. I mean, there is some talk, but we really haven't acted upon anything. Actually, we've seen what North Bennington has done, and they don't have to buy certain services from SVSU. And I think that, you know, we're looking at that because it could be to save some funds there. Depends on what it is.
Well, I encourage you to continue that process.
Yeah.
And to be both really open-minded and creative about it.
Oh, yes.
Not get stuck in, you know, whatever the past attitudes have been. And
Right.
limit your thinking as to how any of this can be done.
I mean, our student enrollment has been at 240. Now, next year, it's projected to go down to 225. If that happens, that raises the tax rate. If we get more students in, then that lowers it. But,
Well, that's actually a good segue to my other question.
okay,
Brandon, can I go to your first question?
sure, hang on.
We're with the superintendent until at least the end of June. Okay? Our current superintendent has agreed to stay on till the end of June. Arlington has selected, I understand that they have selected a superintendent. There is a really deep discussion going on in Montpelier about consolidation. And I think we're all just listening at this point. Perhaps Alice can add something to that, but it's really seems to be a lot more intense than it's ever been. So there's a push to educational districts, reducing the number of SUs down from 60 to perhaps 30. So there's a variety of conversations up there that are headed in a direction that you're talking about.
Financial desperation can be a great driver.
Alice?
This is what the little that I know, and you're on target. There is talk about consolidation. There's talk about eliminating supervisory unions, about having K-12 districts. And then, of course, our district would become a K-12. The advantage of that, I believe, and boy, we really have to study this and look at this very closely when the bill comes out. But the advantage is that kids could be moved anywhere. If we needed more kids here and we were a K-12 district, I believe more kids could be put here by the administration. And the same with other schools. That's been a real that was a real barrier, and it is now the way things are currently structured. They're talking about reducing superintendents. There are 61, I believe, in the state, and they're talking about reducing them a lot. A lot. Maybe down to 16. This is all talk, and it's probably in the bill. What else is being talked about? Oh, the reason behind all of this is the cost of education, which has grown from $800 million a year to $1.4 billion over a fairly short period of time. So people are complaining, for good reason, about their property taxes going up. And this is one of the reasons that this is being looked at. I think the other thing that's being looked at, I certainly am looking at it, are teacher-student ratios. There are student-teacher ratios around the state that are really very small, 8, 9, 10, 11 kids per class to a teacher. That's very, very expensive. And so all of those things that are the drivers behind the increase in educational costs are being looked at. Now, as I say that, I want you to know that Vermont is doing so well in education compared to other states. In fact, I wasn't going to do this, but I will. We have the highest graduation rate in the country, with over 91% of our high school freshmen graduating on time. Our education system, financing system, is one of the most equitable in the nation. Last year, our students ranked second in the nation on the National Assessment of Educational Progress test. Test scores showed that if Vermont was its own country, our students would rank 7th in the world in academic performance. Yeah.
Go Vermont.
So, what I'm saying is we have to be very careful about change. If change, consolidation, whatever it might be, does not save us money, does not improve the quality of education that we currently have, we better be very careful about that. Very careful about that. Personally, I'm not convinced right now we can do a lot better than this. But maybe we can. Maybe there's some method behind the madness, so to speak, in changing things. But anyway, that's just some information.
Okay. Thank you, Alice. Yes?
Could you tell us who made that survey, who put that out?
Pardon?
That data that just gave us, could you tell us who produced that?
The Speaker's office.
Speaker's office.
Okay, yes.
Understanding that there are only so many dollars to go around, and every time the subject comes up about how expensive education is here and elsewhere in our neighborhood, we get the report comes back that, well, it's really not the local school district, it's all these mandates that we have from Montpelier and the federal government. I'm just making a plea to those people who would like to see their tax dollars spent most efficiently and perhaps in other areas that are in need of their money locally, to start thinking about what can we do about changing those mandates. We just sit here and get pummeled by them and accept them. That isn't the way things always are.
Yeah.
And
Well,
have to be.
well, I can tell you, this board and all the boards actually question these so-called mandates that get sent down, because we're at the point where we say, well, if they want it, as long as they send the funding with it, fine. If not, we don't want to do it. But I mean, that's just, you get tired of it after a while hearing, well, we're going to mandate this, but there's no funding. And then you've got the governor saying, well, you got to, be careful of your budgets and make sure you tighten them up, and we tighten them up, and it doesn't work both ways. So, yeah, I hear you.
May I?
Yeah, Alice.
But when we say that, and I know how that feels, but when we say to get rid of the mandates, we need to be very clear about what mandates we want to get rid of. Because some mandates you may really want to keep, like lunch for kids, like getting lead out of the walls for children. Some of those are really in the best interests of our kids. So, and just generally special education mandates, I mean, some of those make a great deal of sense and maybe some don't. But be very specific about what you mean before you throw the baby away with the bathwater. And just the other thing about consolidation. What consolidation would do would be to eliminate local boards, and there would be one K-12 board for the people who are in the new consolidated region, which means it would probably be one man, one vote, and Bennington would have more people on that board than Shaftsbury or Pownell or so forth. Think about that very carefully.
Okay. Tim? Oh, hang on.
Yeah, Tim Scoggins. I would just kind of reinforce what Alice has said and what Barry kind of hinted at. I've been watching this consolidation issue, and I've read 3 or 4 articles lately that have been in the press about it. And the thing that makes me skeptical about it is they say we have to consolidate because our student population is going down and our cost to educate is going up, so we have to save money, and consolidation is the way that we're going to do that. And then every one of those articles says that all the people at Montpelier are saying, don't look for cost savings from this consolidation anytime soon. So what are we getting, and why are we approaching this way? We're approaching a cost problem, and here's our plan, but our plan doesn't address cost. And my worry about a plan like that is accountability. This is, everybody's screaming about cost of education, so politicians have to run out and come up with a plan, and here it is, and it doesn't address cost. And if you're consolidating and you're eliminating local school boards and you're not eliminating cost, you're taking those, to what I think could happen is you're taking those same costs and pushing them up into a more top-heavier bureaucracy. And one thing that you'd be giving up, maybe the system of governance we have now, which they tell us dates back to 1892 and we've got to change it, what it does is it gives us schools like Shaftsbury, where we've got a local school board and people we can look in the eye and talk to about the way we want our schools to be. And by and large, all the local schools and the local populations like those schools. And my worry with a consolidation plan like this is that we're not going to get cost saving, but we are going to take away the local goodness that we like. And people at the top, they always like consolidation because there are fewer things that they have to manage. But I think we should all be skeptical of the plan, at least as I've read it. And like I say, I've read it from 3 or 4 sources lately, and I don't like what I see.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. Dave? You want to come up, Dave?
No, I'll just use this mic. Okay. And thank you, Tim. I think those are some good points. And I think the key question that I haven't read anything about, specifics about anyways, is funding and how a new system would change or not change the funding system. We have Act 68, which currently funds through a statewide tax system, has been very good to Shaftsbury and very good to Bennington. And we just want to make sure that there aren't anything that changes that fundamentally. Also, to the earlier point that this gentleman was raising about taxes, I just want to be clear. Fran mentioned earlier that if you pay based on your property, if you pay property taxes, in other words, for your school taxes, the rate is going up 2 cents, so less than 2%. If you pay based on income, and if you're wondering, you can look at this chart. Essentially, if you earn less than $110,000, you probably pay your school taxes based on income rather than your property value, and your tax rate is going to be going down. So this year it was 2.44, and it's going down to 2.43%. So cost of education is going up. Here in Shaftsbury, the tax rate, your taxes, what you're going to be spending, is not necessarily going up.
Okay. And we have more of those sheets also that he's reading off from. We can put them on the back table so you could have some. Yes.
Michael Gardner. I guess there's always got to be one in every crowd. I think a couple points that we may have missed about consolidation currently with 60 districts doing their own payroll, their own negotiating, with their own layers of overhead. It's pretty obvious we won't see any immediate cost savings because we still have to amortize the costs of a reduced physical plant. Instead of 60 supervisory union offices, we'd be gradually reducing that down to 13 to 16. A lot of these fine folks that have spent an awful lot of time in our supervisory unions, they don't just want to terminate. A lot of this would be attrition through retirement. So the cost savings would probably be realized over 5 and 10-year periods of time. I think anytime we look for an immediate cost savings, sometimes we're stepping over a dollar to pick up a dime. What we need to be looking at is really big picture, really long-term programs so we can start allocating money into schools and not allocating money into supervisory unions, into duplicate payroll, into duplicate negotiations, into 60 different school districts hiring their own lawyers on an almost endless basis to review new laws and new regulations. I mean, just what we spend in legal fees, duplicated by 60 school districts across the state of Vermont, is enough to fund many small schools for an entire year. So yes, I agree we need to be cautious about consolidation, but I think if we just say, well, there's no short-term benefit, well, no kidding. But over a 5, 10, 15, 20-year period of time, as multiple generations of Vermonters move through the system, like myself, who attended Shaftsbury Elementary School when there were over 300 kids here, we will see some cost savings. So I don't think we should be necessarily reticent to change just because it's in black and white and not going to be apparent in 2 years. So here's a vote in favor of consolidating the supervisory unions and allocating more resources to the schools. One thing about costs, it should be pointed out that one of the reasons that the costs for income-based payers, which is 71.6% of people in Shaftsbury, is because of our CLA. But in actuality, with the fine folks in Montpelier raising the statewide property tax rate over just the last couple of years, property tax-based taxpayers, which are in the minority because we've sensitized the vast majority of the population, have seen a 17% increase in their taxes. Whereas the 72% of the population that is sensitized has seen a much smaller percentage increase in their taxes. And I don't know if this is an outward attempt by the folks in Montpelier to simply buy votes, or if this is a way for them to effectively pass the costs onto people that statistically have absolutely no control over it, even if there was 100% voter turnout. But I think that's something we need to be very cognizant of in the town of Shaftsbury. Because as was pointed out, if the funding mechanism changes, we could very quickly find ourselves no longer on the receiving end of those subsidies. So I think to become dependent on those subsidies opens us to, unfortunately, in the next probably 5 or 10 years, a pretty scary reality.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Anyone else?
Yes, I'm afraid I have to answer that.
Okay.
May I?
Alice, go right ahead.
The state economists, and I guess all economists, realize that in the last few years, because of the boom in the economy, the boom in the market, the stock market, there are people who make over $100,000 a year who are now have assets far greater than that. People with that kind of money are now millionaires. The market has gone up, went up 27%, I think, last year. Michael will know more about that. But it has grown from 6,600, it's low, to 16,100 today. The people who have benefited from that are the high-income people. They don't need the help with the property taxes. The 70% you just heard about from Michael Gardner are the people who do need the help. Their incomes are lower. The incomes here in Shaftsbury around between $40,000, $45,000 a year. They need to pay taxes based on their income. They do get a subsidy, they do get a break. But I will tell you that in all the reports that have come from the economists, the people who have done not well at all in this boom time are the middle class and the lower middle class and the poor. In fact, the poor are in the minus column. That's a really important thing to remember when you're changing those rates for different classes of people based on income. Something else I wanted to say, which I've forgotten. But maybe I'll think of it in a minute.
Okay. Mike?
I promise this is just going to, I don't want to go back and forth all night, but I think it's really important. I think it's really important everybody understands how this funding mechanism works. Alice hit on some very important points. For those that don't know, my real job is a financial advisor. But Alice and a lot of the folks in Montpelier, try as they might, are focusing on the income of folks. You know, someone in my business can take someone with a net worth of $5 or $10 million and make them eligible for a full income tax sensitivity rebate and Medicaid, depending on how you choose to take your income. We focus on income, not wealth. You know, two college graduates moving back to Vermont can make pretty darn close to that threshold with entry-level jobs if they're a two-income family. The reality is they have mortgages, they have student loan debt, and they pay a very high marginal income tax. So their net worth is oftentimes and statistically far less than most of the folks, or not most, but a good portion of the folks that are receiving rebates. So while we do have a school tax funding mechanism that focuses on income, it doesn't actually focus or ask for asset disclosure, and it doesn't focus on wealth at all. And there's a very big contrast between wealth and income. And I think that's something that hopefully the fine folks in Montpelier will look at if they actually want to create a system, as Alice said, that is deemed equitable. I guess the equity in the system would be determined on whose pocket you're picking.
Okay, Alice?
I remembered what I forgot to say. I'm not getting up again. This is it. The state does not set the tax rate. You do. And all the other school boards and all the Vermont voters in the state. You set your budget, and I want to tell you, you have done a very good job. Our taxes are not going up here very much in Shaftsbury. But in other places in the state, they're going up a great deal. They're going up 10, 11, 12, 13%. Well, what happens is that all of the budgets that you people make out and that citizens support at the polls come to Montpelier, they do the mathematics, they divide how much money they need, the state needs, to support the schools and our children. If our rate goes up 7 cents, it's because your rate has gone up 7 cents, and we have to pay that bill. Now, can we do things to make that different? Yes, we can. We can do that in the Ways and Means Committee. We can raise the people who pay by income, which is now 1.8% to 1.9. We can do that and make them pay a little more and lower the rate for the people who pay by property value. We can, there are other things that Ways and Means can do. But just remember that. The people of Vermont set the tax rate by voting for the budgets before them.
Okay.
Larry, you going to correct that?
I think it needs correction, but I'd need some work to build that correction. I think I'd take exception, Alice, that our rate has gone up 7 cents, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'd take exception that our rate has gone up 7 cents. I think that's skewed a little bit. But again, without.
By in what way?
I don't think it has. I think the state is handed us an additional tax rate on top of what we've been able to do, and that's what you're referring to.
I'm just telling you how it works. I'm just telling you that the budgets come in and they just divide the number of kids by the money that's needed, and that's what gets sent back out. It's all determined by the boards and the voters, the tax rate.
Well, maybe you could break it out for us, Alice, and explain yes, we have a local rate, but then we also have a tax rate handed down by the state, okay? And maybe you could tell us how that additional rate is generated.
The tax rate that comes from the state.
Alice, if you could get it to, because nobody's going to be able to hear you.
I think I'm repeating myself now, but the tax rate that comes from the state is based on what you send them. Now, well, I'll tell you what else affects the tax rate, and you know this, Larry, being a lister. What affects the tax rate is the decrease in the grand list.
That's right.
And the decrease in enrollment. We've been very fortunate here in Shaftsbury to have an increase of 20 or 30 students, I believe, and for that you're getting an extra $9,200 per child. But when it went from 300 and something, 330 kids, as we all know used to be here, to under 200 kids, it cost us a lot of money, a lot of revenue. But I mean, I don't have, if you ask me what else you would like to know, I mean, I can find out those answers. I'm not sure I have them all tonight, but that's...
There are other sources for our educational fund. There are
sorry,
other taxes that play into our educational fund. And some of those revenue streams are down as well. And they have to be made up by the population in general. Transportation tax feeds in a little bit. Lottery taxes feed in a little bit. And some of those revenue streams have decreased as well. And yet our spending has stayed at a level that has to be supplemented by something. And again, I see that supplement coming from the property tax base in the state of Vermont.
Well, I'm not going to go on with this here because I can't answer the question without looking harder
Right.
at the question, but I'd be willing to do that with you, Larry.
Okay.
Thank you, Alice.
Michael, you want to add something?
Is that all right for you?
Go ahead.
Well, I'm not a legislator, nor did I help craft the legislations in the 1990s that started this, but I can probably explain. A huge portion of the tax rate that is set in Montpelier. It's divided up between those that pay by income, those that pay by property tax. It's not divided up by the actual number of students that we have, because this convoluted system, it has ghost students, which are kids that may or may not really exist, depending on if the enrollment has fluctuated by a small decimal point or a fraction of a percent one direction or the other. So the system's extraordinarily complicated, and since all of our tax money flows to Montpelier, before it's then redistributed to school districts, of which we are currently, thankfully, beneficiaries thereof, we don't really set the tax rate anymore. We're given a tax rate based on the number of, basically, students, real or not, that we happen to have at any given point in time. We add in some of the local funding to determine our local tax rate, but a huge portion of that rate is set in Montpelier, and it's then adjusted effectively by our grand list, one direction or the other, and then divided up by the number of imaginary pupils to come up with a per pupil spending number. But very little of that is done by local school boards anymore. Instead, during my experience on the school board, we are spending an awful lot of time arguing with the folks in Montpelier and arguing over pots and pans. But if anyone really wants to see how the property tax funding mechanism really works, there's phenomenal articles online written by a guy named Hugh Kemper, really sharp guy, former Wall Street guy, so you can feel free to hate him. But it does a really phenomenal job breaking down of where every single dollar goes and how it gets there. And the school board, I think everybody on the school board is very familiar with all those numbers, but I would encourage all of the voters to become as familiar as possible with them as well. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, need a motion to adjourn. And a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.